This theme for the school year. Look up. I love it. So my challenge for you is to write that down every single day, literally. In your notebook, note card, type it into your phone, whatever you got to do, but keep that in front of you. Don't be like most companies, organizations, teams out there where you come up with this theme for the year or a word or a vision statement, and it looks cool and sounds cool, but you kind of forget about it. Keep looking up. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So my goal for us today, anytime I get a chance to teach, whether it's in person, online, big group, small group, one-on-one, or 1 to 100, my hope is that we can choose to step into growth so we can learn to know God better and better. I'm big into taking steps each and every day, and my energy, my work, and my love, and people that I love in my life, my family, what I get to do for a living, and then also just my personal goals. And that's what we're talking about today. But before we get into that, I really want to talk to you today about what it means to look up. And I don't mean just glancing up once in a while to check a box. I mean looking up with true purpose, with focus, and understanding what we're actually looking at or looking to. Because if you're going to stay on course, you have to first know that you're off course, or what the course is. I've always been challenged by people, hey, get back on course, hey, stay on course. But we never really focus on what is the path, what is the course, how do I do that? If I get off course, how do I get back on course? How do I discover the course? How do I stay on the course? And so I'm going to share with you today some practical tips on how you can do that and kind of talk about each of those options that we have when we're on the course and we're off the course and how we discover the course. But before I get into that, I want to tell more stories about my daughter. So if you're thinking about speaking, I get to tell stories about my kids, and they're not here, which is even better. If you remember last time I shared a story about Vail, about how she ran through a screen door, and it was hilarious, and that she was okay, so bless her little soul. Today I'm going to tell a story. She just turned 9, everybody. Who likes birthdays here? Anybody? Nobody. Cool. 2 people. Well, you guys are easy to shop for. Well, she just had a birthday. She loves her birthday. And she loves playing the Switch. Anyone have a Switch here? And she's always asking us to play it. And like good parents that we are, if we're frustrated and we're like, don't want to entertain you, go put your face in the screen. It's healthy. And so she's been really wanting to get the game Minecraft. Anyone play Minecraft here? You Minecrafters? Oh, yeah. Wow, you guys are way more excited than I thought you would be for that game. First off, it's frustrating. Holy moly. Okay? My daughter does not have patience. So Minecraft's not working out too well for her right now. She doesn't understand that she's got to, collect all the supplies, build the supplies, and there's all these crazy creatures that are coming after her at night, and she gets frustrated. She just wants it to work. And I try to help her, and I thought that I was good at video games, but I'm not. And so it's been an interesting road, to say the least. But here's why I tell you that story. It's not really a story. Here's what I told you about my daughter. Have you ever started something before and then for a number of reasons stopped? Raise your hand. Who started something before and then because it got hard, or you just didn't understand it, or it was taking too long and you just quit? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. But I'm going to tell a story on myself now because I feel guilty about telling stories of my daughter, not myself. Who's excited for Christmas? Yeah. Who's excited for Christmas break? Teachers are going to give you so much homework over break. It's going to be awesome. Projects for days. Due first day back. No, I'm just joking. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, Christmas break. I love me some Christmas. I don't want to be that guy that looks past Thanksgiving. Anybody have their tree up already? You do. I love it. Was that your call or your mom's call? Mom? You don't mess with mom in the house, okay? Mom's the boss. So we haven't put our tree up yet, but I love me some Christmas lights. I love having my yard look like the Griswold yard, where it's just a bunch of cheesy inflatables and cheesy lights and nothing matches. That's Christmas to me. My wife wants everything like white lights, perfectly even, the tree to look awesome. And I'm like, that is not Christmas. That is Hallmark, and we don't do that, okay? I want it to be raw, real, green, red, and just cheesiness. So I like to get a head start on my lights. And one year I jump out there before it's getting cold. It's probably around this time, or at least I can't believe it's November 1st. And I put my lights up like super fast, and I was so proud of myself. And I was good, and then I went to plug in the lights, right? There's always that one outlet where at the very end everything's plugged together, and then you got to plug it into that one outlet, and it's like the movie. The lights turn on, everybody, and it's amazing, right? The Christmas spirit comes down, it starts to snow, and then you fall in love. It's like it's Hallmark. Yeah, there you go. But when I went to plug in my outlet into my other outlet, it wouldn't plug in. You want to know why? It was the wrong side. So now an outlet has the two, you call them the little male prongs, right? And it goes into the holes. Well, I had I had nothing. And I had just spent like 2 hours going all over my house on a ladder, climbing up on my roof, putting them all together, and I had nothing. I had this whole project I started, and I thought I was on course, and I was focused, and I was looking at the right things, and I had this plan in my head, and it all came together really good until I got to the end, and it didn't work. So what did I have to do for the next 3 hours?
Take it off.
Take them all down, and then I had to do the worst part. You'll understand this once you get married. And I had to call my father-in-law. Man. And I said, hey, dude, I messed up. You want to come help me? And because my father-in-law is awesome, he came and helped me. But here's where we're going with all this. My goal for you, as you look up, no matter if you're a freshman here or a senior, no matter where your grades are at currently, no matter athletics, if you're in the midst of playoffs, or if you're waiting for the next sport, or if you're on the band and worship and you're crafting your skills to live out that calling, no matter what you're chasing in life, my goal for you is to remember your purpose. And one of my favorite words in Scripture comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 26. If you're taking notes, write that down. Because there's a word I want you to hold on to today, and out of this verse. It's very simple. It's Paul saying, so I run with purpose in every step. I run with purpose in every step. And I love that because, as I asked before, usually when you start a new project or you have a goal or a dream or fill in the blank, like you have so much excitement when you first start out. It kind of reminds me of a runner in a race, right? So when Paul says to run with purpose in every step, he's not talking just about focusing on the finish line alone or whatever the end may be. He's saying that every step matters, every action matters, every choice matters. It all adds up, it all counts. So if any runners here? I'm judging you, okay? So runners, right? Runners are legit. They have the mental toughness that a lot of us don't have. It's crazy. They're not just sprinting toward a finish line, right? They're paying attention to every stride, every breath. They're staying in sync with their goal. They're tracking their time. That's how we're called to run in our faith. That's how we're able to continue to look up and not be distracted, which I'll talk about here in a second. But you see, the first step in anything, I call it the attraction phase. If you're taking note, write that down. The attraction phase. Who here likes puzzles? Puzzles are awesome until you open the box up, right? Like when you're looking at the cover, like that is so cool. And then you open it up and it's like, oh my goodness. Even with my kids, like 30-piece puzzle, I'm like, nope, not going to do it. You can do it though, I'll help you. But the attraction phase, the first stage of any goal, this is when you're fired up, you're excited about the possibilities, you can't stop thinking about how awesome it's going to be. It is the best. But then, as I said earlier, if you think about something you started, a new something, it's a job, a relationship, your faith journey, you're inspired, right? I bet some of you, for being totally transparent today, when you came home from your look up weekend away as a class, as a school, that you were just on fire for Jesus, you were on fire for the school year. And then real life hit when you got home. You walked back into a house of tension, or you walked back into a class that was intimidating, or you had to walk the halls where you just didn't feel accepted, or your friendships weren't where you wanted them to be, or whatever. Real life hit, and you might have been feeling a little bit discouraged, or like, man, I don't know if I can do this. It's just not this. It's not. You're not in the same space that you were spiritually or mentally when you first came home. In the ministry world, we kind of call it the camp high. And I am all for getting away, whether it's for a couple of days or a week. I believe it's biblical. I believe God does incredible things. But I believe a lot of times we fail ourselves and we fail those groups that we go with to set them up for success when they get home, because that's the real life. Because now you're taking those normal, mundane steps every single day. And it can get hard. And it brings me to another biblical story that I'll just gloss over in a sense, but the story of the Israelites, right? Moses in the promised land. He saw something amazing ahead. He knew what the end was going to look like. He communicated it to his people. He constantly was getting messages, incredible miracles, incredible sightings, all throughout their journey. I'm sure most of you know what those are, where they could look up and know that God was on their side, but they kept getting distracted over and over again, and it set them back many, many years when it shouldn't have, and their steps were off course, on course, off course, bad course, good course. They were everywhere. If you would look at their journey, it would have just been a giant maze of a mess. See, I want you to think about that for the first time all over again. I want you to go back in your mind right now, whether if you were younger or whether it wasn't this Look Up conference, and think about that moment you had at some point in your faith journey with Jesus where you were just like, yes. And you were just on fire. In a sense of like, man, I want to be in a deep, authentic, everything that we just sang in that last song. Like, I surrender my one life to you. And I want you to think about that feeling, that moment, like how your soul felt. I came across a quote recently that I've written down and put on my desk. It talked about how you should live every day, or I'll back up. It actually says you should treat your body every day as if you would live forever. And you should treat your soul every day as if you were going to die tomorrow. Like, how's your soul right now? How are you doing internally? How are you doing mentally? How is your time with Jesus looking? How are you doing at looking up? How are you doing at loving others? Especially those that don't look like you, believe like you, or want to be a part of your world. As I said last time I was here. But then, so the first phase is the attractions phase. The second phase is this, the distraction phase. So you have this idea, you have this moment, you have this goal in mind, and you are pumped, you are ready. But then, as I said, you're home from Look Up conference. Now you're in the grind of the school year, the schedule, all of the family life, the expectations, the pressure of life, all that stuff. And then now, distractions are all around. It's called the real world. Right? There's a thing called a screen, a phone. There's a thing called friendships or relationships. There's a thing called idols, a lot of things can become an idol, right? It might be your hobbies, your whatever you're passionate about if you're not careful. There's all these good and bad distractions. And you know what they are. I guarantee some of you may be thinking about them as I'm talking about it. But here's the tough part. The distraction phase is unavoidable. Like I said, it's called real life. This is where things start to get hard. And we begin to lose sight of our goal. We begin to lose sight of the course that we believe that God has called us to. And now instead of looking up and looking out towards my course and my goal, I'm getting distracted over here, like wiping the sweat off his face or whatever, right? Or I'm over here, I'm like, oh man, that's a cool hat. Look at that. This shiny new toy. Or nice, that's a cool binder, man. Nice pencil. Like, that's awesome. And we begin to be distracted. And if you want to get more real, there are some bigger distractions that can begin to destroy us from the inside out. And I'm not going to list those out because I'm pretty sure you're smart. You can begin to think about what some of those could be in your life at the age that you're at and the access that you have to certain things. But distractions come in many forms: doubts, setbacks, our own fears. It's easy to begin to look at everything but God during this time. Which brings me back to the story that I shared with you last time that I was here, and that was Peter walking on water. That famous story of him stepping out of the boat, an incredible moment, a miraculous moment where he got to walk on water until he took his eyes off the course. He took his eyes off Jesus, and he looked around. And that was when he began to sink. So when distractions hit, don't be surprised. When adversity hits, don't be surprised. It's normal. It's life. It's biblical. It's predicted. It's happened over and over again. But remember, we have to keep looking up and keep looking at Jesus to stay above the distractions, the waves, the adversities in our lives. And then there's the third phase. So there's the attraction phase, there's the distraction phase, and then there's the take out the dis, and what do you have? You have the traction phase. Who here drives? Who here needs new tires going into winter time? Yeah. So tires are expensive. You'll learn that as you get older, especially depending on the rig that you drive. And man, if you don't got good traction in bad weather, you are in some trouble. And all my people who have been driving for a while can definitely relate to that. If you've ever been in a car with bare tires, you feel it when you drive, you see it on your gas mileage, and you especially feel it and see it and experience it when the ice is not how, or the road is now supposed to be and it's slicker outside. You lose traction, you go off course. But the traction phase is where I want you guys to learn to live in your young lives. Some of you guys might not believe, oh man, I got this, I'm older, I'm a senior, I'm not young. You are so young, you have no idea. But I want you to begin to learn this in your spiritual life, because the phrase where we dig in, the traction phase, can be rephrased as recommitting and finding our footing again. You see, when we have good traction and we hit that ice, we might do a little bit of a skid, but we're right back on course. This is where we're no longer just looking up, but we're moving toward and we're looking at. So my hope for you is that you will always look up, but you will always choose to look at your course, your dreams, your goals, and most importantly, Jesus. But in order to do that, you have to establish traction in your lives. You have to go get your tires rotated. You have to go get your tires changed. You're going to have to invest time, energy, and money to keep traction with Jesus. And if I go to one of my favorite stories in Scripture, what time do we have to be out here? 120 or 125? Somebody help me out. 125? All right. So I want to go to a story that's one of my favorite in the Bible. It's the scene when Jesus is on the cross. And he has two people with him up there. And in the Bible, it beautifully illustrates this moment of traction. It's about a man on the cross next to Jesus. There was another man as well. He was a man who had many mistakes, lived a rough life, and was facing his final moments, his final breaths. And at this point, he could have easily just stayed focused on his pain, his mistakes, and his regrets. I played a lot of baseball growing up, and now I get to coach it. And I remember I was a middle infielder, and there were seasons in my life before I was able to kind of mature as a baseball player mentally, where I'd make an error, and it would just eat at me, like the rest of that inning. And if the ball got hit to me again, I was more likely to make another error because I didn't have any traction mentally, and I wasn't focused. I lost all my confidence, and it would eat at me. And this man, in a much larger scale, is now facing all of that. He's literally dying, and all he can think about, or could be thinking about, is all of the regret, the poor choices. But instead, in his last moments, he began to look up, literally and spiritually, and he saw Jesus for who he really was in a very vulnerable, scary moment. And even though he was on the brink of death, literally, he found the courage to ask Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. That took traction. That took the resolve to look beyond his past, beyond his circumstances, and to fix his eyes on Jesus, the Savior. And Jesus responded with the ultimate assurance. My favorite words that Jesus spoke, he said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." And in that moment, that man found traction, not just in that moment, but eternally. He let go of everything holding him back and committed himself to fully to the one that mattered the most, and fully to the thing that mattered the most, and that was being in a relationship with Jesus. And that's my goal for you guys. There's a lot of things you can put your time and your energy and your focus in. You can create traction in, and the world's going to tell you that's right, that's what you should be doing. But at the end of the day, I promise you, there's nothing more valuable than putting your traction, your energy, your mindset, your goals, your confidence, your everything into Jesus. It'll change your life eternally. It'll change your family. It'll change your friendships. It'll change your perspective. It'll change everything. Just like it did for that dying criminal that was next to Jesus on the cross. You see, sometimes when we're stuck in the distraction phase, and this is where I believe we sit the longest in our lives. We're excited about something, we're young, we're 16, we're 17, we got our whole lives ahead of us, and then we get older and we begin to make some choices that affect us mentally, physically, and then next thing you know, we begin to doubt ourselves, and that dream that we had is now gone because I can't live that. I'm a failure, or I'm just too sinful, or whatever, however you want to say it. And we begin to let the distraction phase of our lives begin to mold us and shape us, and now we take our eyes off course, and we begin to just turn to more distractions because we want to be distracted by the pain, but now we're causing more pain because we just continue to fill ourselves with distractions. It's a circle of life. If you look at our culture right now, if you look at what's coming up in about a week and a half, about 5 days from now, you're going to see it. A culture that is living a life of distraction and not a life of Jesus. It feels like we're out of time and we've made too many mistakes. Maybe some of you feel that a little bit. My encouragement for you today is the day. Turn back to Jesus or turn to Jesus even more than you already are. But you see, going back to this criminal that was on the cross next to Jesus, this man's story reminds us that it's never too late to find traction, hope, Jesus, to refocus us, our hearts and our minds on whatever goal God has placed in our hearts, because that dream, that goal came from somewhere. And I believe it came from God. I believe it came from the Holy Spirit. That's why it's in you. That's why I pray for you every single day, for this generation. I pray for my kids that they will continue to have Jesus sparks all the time. That they'll have ideas will begin to spark in their brains, a word, something they see or watch or hear, and it'll spark action in their lives for Jesus. Here's what I'm going to say in closing. I want you to begin to ask yourself this question. What am I looking at right now? Not literally. But in your life, where is your focus? How is your soul doing? Are you focused on God and the purpose He has for your life? Or are you letting the distractions of culture and the world and the pressures of life become your idols? And the best part about your guys' scenario, and this is my last challenge for you, and I'm going to pray us out. You guys get to be in a very unique environment. You get a very top-notch educational experience across the way here, where you're going to be pushed and challenged, where sometimes you may feel like it's too much, but you're getting a very, very good education here. That's going to set you guys up for whatever you guys do next, whether it's college or the workforce or whatever. I promise you, a lot of you in here are going to be ahead of a lot of kids because of how they've set you up here. I know that because I've been to a lot of schools and I see it. And I think the most important part about what this school offers you is not necessarily this room right now, But the fact that the culture of the school is built upon Jesus, it's willing to take you to a conference or whatever you guys call it, a weekend getaway, whatever the terminology you guys use, a camp, to go away and get your minds right and come up with a theme for the year and say, hey, you know what our focus is? It's looking up to Jesus. I saw one of your guys' posts recently on Instagram. I don't know who's in charge of your guys' social media, but it was a picture of people praying. It says something along the lines of, before you can look up, you got to kind of look down in prayer. And I thought that was really good. And so my challenge for you today is be appreciative of the staff and the school and the culture that they have built here over the years, because it's special and it's unique. And take advantage of the relationships you have here. And if there's something that I've talked about today that's intimidating or you want more answers for, like there are so many staff here who love to talk to you. I know that because there's a reason why they've chosen to work here. So don't think I'm asking you to do this alone. God doesn't want you to do this alone. He created you to be in community, which look to your left and your right, look behind you, look ahead of you. There's people all around you who you can live this out with. So please don't think I'm asking you to go take this ginormous task of life on your own. It was never supposed to be that way. When we look up and we look at Jesus, he wants us to do it with a crowd.